Hey, everybody. So this is going to be a vlog for more advanced nerds, perhaps. If you're a beginner, you might find it interesting, but it's really geared towards more advanced nerds. This is something I learned later on in my career as a developer, because like all developers, I started by writing code myself. And for several years, I was a coder professionally writing code. Now, what happens at one point, if you become successful, and you will become successful if you just keep learning and you keep working calmly towards your goals. Anyhow, so as you continue to develop your skills and your abilities, you'll either rise up in the company where they'll put other more junior developers under you, or as a freelancer, you'll start getting so much work that you're going to start having to hire people to help you out. Now, the problem with that is when you start bringing in new people to work under you in either situation, working for somebody or working for yourself, there is a new layer of organization that has to be accounted for. You basically have to coordinate who's doing what coding. So you have one other guy, it's not such a big deal. But if you have two or three other coders or more, it becomes much more of a headache. So what happens is that you'll find yourself becoming more and more detached from actual coding. You simply will not have the time because it's very difficult to manage a project that has several developers involved, whether you have actual programmers writing the business logic, writing the actual code, or maybe you might have, in addition to that, front-end developers putting together the user interface, the UI, working on the UX, the user experience. These are all detailed aspects of app development, whether it be web apps, whether it be mobile apps, or even desktop apps, of course. Yeah, so what happens as you get more and more people working for you, you have less and less time to write code yourself. And then what you're going to find is that mentally, it's very difficult to do both jobs at the same time. Meaning it's very difficult to be somebody who has a view of the project from 20,000 feet, in that you're able to see all the moving pieces. You're seeing all these individual developers doing their work as your UX guys and your UI people, guys and girls, are doing their work. So what happens, at some point you're going to have to make a decision whether or not to become a manager of developers, or whether you're going to just become or stick to development. I know people after 20 years, some have gone into the management end, some have gone into the sales end. Other people have stuck to being pure developers. Some people move up into project leads where they manage a bunch of developers under them. The point I want to emphasize in this video is that there's a point where you're going to have to make that decision, what it is you want to do in terms of your long-term career. Do you want to move up into management, or do you want to stick to development? Now, when you do move up into management, what happens, you become detached from the coding trends. And this has happened to me in the past, where because I had to concentrate on the big picture, I lost touch with some of the details in terms of what was coming out, what was cutting edge in terms of coding. Now, recently I've jumped back into it. Well, everything's relative in the last couple of years. And so I'm much more aware than I was, say, 5 years ago, where I sort of got detached from that too much. So here I am again, though, where I'm managing the Studio Web project, which is an app that's quite mature. It's about 6 years old now. And I'm managing the developers that are on this project. And we're not doing major changes because it's a very mature code base. It's just more of a refactoring, which is a type of cleanup, and some additional features added to it. But I have to again, I can't get into the code, rather. I can't jump deep into the code, because if I jump deep into the code, I'll become too close to the code, and then I won't be able to focus on the big picture again. And that's what you have to do as a manager of a project. You have to be able to step away from it. And that was hard for me at first. It was very difficult for me to leave the day-to-day coding because I really enjoyed it. I love the the result of when you get a piece of code to work, when you see your app doing something. It's kind of fun. But in exchange for that, when you do become a manager of developers, when you do get into that management level, your satisfaction is seeing the whole project come together, which is actually a much more stressful job, to be totally honest with you, because you got to make sure all these different people are doing what they need to do and following the working specification, and everything coordinates. And then at the same time, because Studio Web, I also deal with the clients to a certain extent, because I want to be in touch with the end users of our product so that I get direct feedback, and this allows me to better plan and better manage the development and the subtleties in the product. When you become detached from your clients, your software becomes detached from the needs of your clients. And that's what you're kind of seeing now with Apple, where you see, since Steve Jobs has died, they're still putting out solid products, but there seems to be this slow creeping away from being responsive to the client needs. We'll see. They, for instance, don't want to add touchscreens to their laptops, and they claim that touchscreen laptops don't work, which is, frankly, if you look at the evidence out there with the Microsoft Surface and the Surface Pros and so many other manufacturers who have touchscreens, that notion is kind of a silly thing. I can tell you from somebody who uses both Mac OS, and I love Mac OS, and Windows, I really like Windows 10. I can tell you from having a touchscreen Windows machine, the touchscreen does come in handy. Often rather, it's used just to move windows around, close apps, open apps, scroll through websites. But it becomes like a very important user interface to have that touch screen, and then to have dependability built into your main device is also kind of cool. I use it a lot when in meetings. I'm writing down notes with the pen, and because they're digital notes, I can save them, I can send them off, I can categorize them. It's in many ways better than paper. And with the Microsoft Surface Pen, it does feel like, you got different nibs you can put in the front of the pen, in front of the stylus, and it does feel like paper or a ballpoint pen on paper. It's not perfect, but it feels pretty good, and after a little bit you get used to it. It's quite good. Anyway, off on a tangent. Woo! That's it. Getting into managing coders means you're going to have to become detached from the code, which can be a little bit difficult, and you also understand it changes your entire role as a developer. But when you get into that management end of things, your possibilities in terms of your career, in terms of what you have to do, increase considerably. And as a freelancer, and this is within the context of a business, you can move into higher levels of management that way, and sales. And in terms of freelancing, if you're going to expand your freelancing career, you're going to have to, at some point, if you have any success, bring in assistance. And so you're going to have to start thinking in those terms as well. I hope you found this vlog useful. Bye-bye.